Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Welcome, everyone. We're just going to wait a few more minutes to let more people join. Thank you for joining today's Sustainachella. Biscayne Bay is my bay. We're going to have a lot of great speakers, not only from South Florida, but also from our partners over in Hawaii. So please stay tuned and we'll be starting shortly. So let's get the chat moving. If you look at the bottom of the screen for everyone participating in Zoom, you'll see the ability to chat. So we encourage you to use the chat during the presentations to ask questions, as well as to interact with the other participants. So to kick it off, I'd love to hear from you and more about why you love the Bay and what's your favorite part of Biscayne Bay. All right, let's see. All right, going back. I'm not sure, Flavia, can you see the Q&A and the comments? For some reason it's...
Yeah, and guys, let's warm up the comments here. And it's already, hey, Sarah's here, down, Manny. They love kayaking, paddleboarding, sunsets, sailing. What else, guys? Why did you guys join today? Why do you love the Bay?
Sunsets are one of my favorite. Snorkeling also, yes, love it.
Awesome. Love watching the wildlife and boats from our balcony. Oh my God, you're so lucky, Patrick. You can see it from your balcony. Walking along the beach at sunset.
Paddleboarding. I think that paddleboarding might be the best COVID activity you can do outside. It's my favorite. So whoever said paddleboarding, I'm there with you.
Oh, dolphins. That's awesome.
Right now with social distancing, the Bay is the place to keep a safe distance and enjoy nature. Thank you, Ms. Wells. Ms. Grief. Dolphin.
Yeah, we miss you, Margarita.
Margarita.
Seeing sharks, manatees, stingrays, dolphins, octopus, fish, pelicans. Awesome.
All right.
So Betsy, I think we are good if you want to keep on going.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you everyone for participating in another one of our Sustainachella series. I'm going to quickly do a few housekeeping tips. I want to remind everyone that participants are muted and your videos are disabled. So if you want to ask questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom, as well as the chat, which many of you have already started to use. If you share comments in the chat, remember that the whole group sees those. So you can also choose to select if you'd like all of the panelists and the attendees to see your questions, or if you'd like to direct your questions directly to the panelists, that's all right as well. All right, so we started Sustainachella as an employee program geared toward building sustainability within the organization. But with the recent pandemic, we chose to bring this series to all of our community for Earth Month. And then because of everything still happening, we have extended Sustainachella through the month of May. In the next month, we're going to be partnering with the Pelican Harbor, the Nature Conservancy, as well as Miami Beach Botanical Gardens to give you additional additional work series. I also want to highlight there's a number of events after 6 p.m. and that's because our partners from Hawaii will also be joining us. All right, so we have a full agenda today. We have Melissa from City of Miami, Rachel, Miami Waterkeeper, James from Hawaii, and Matt from Coral Gables, as well as Makali from Maui in Hawaii. So I'm now going to turn it over. So yes, thank you everyone for participating. And I will now turn it over to Rachel with Miami Waterkeeper. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can start.
Hopefully I can figure this out seamlessly. Did that work?
You got it.
Yay. Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks so much for having me. Some of my favorite folks on here. Hello, everybody. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. I'm Rachel Silverstein. I'm the Executive Director and Waterkeeper of local nonprofit Miami Waterkeeper. I cannot see the chat right now, so just let me know if I get any questions that I need to respond to. So I just want to fill you in a little bit about the work that we do here in Miami, and of course want to hear and answer your questions. Our goal is to ensure swimmable, drinkable, and fishable water for all. I'll tell you a little bit about why that's our mission. If I can make my screen move, there we go. So these are folks on the Hudson River. These gentlemen over here are commercial fishermen in the 1960s. They are trying to figure out what to do about pollution happening in the Hudson River. They have fed their families for generations by fishing out of the Hudson. It's part of their heritage, their culture, their economy there. And a number of factories went in, and at the time there were no laws to stop people from polluting in bodies of water. So they decided to band together, and as citizens, in the early 1970s, their efforts resulted in the Clean Water Act being passed. And the Clean Water Act gives all of us a right to water that is safe for swimming, drinking, and fishing. And part of what is so special about that law, that when Congress wrote it, they actually gave citizens the right to bring lawsuits to protect their own waterways. So that's a key piece of that law. And in order to make it full and make it really work as it's supposed to, citizens have to be involved in it and to participate not only in lawsuits, but in making public comments and weighing in on the process to protect waters that really belong to all of us. And then this gentleman here is the first river keeper, and he's patrolling the Hudson River, and actually right behind where these guys are, you can see there was a large Exxon ship, and on his very first patrol out on the water, he discovered illegal dumping going on that resulted in a $2 million fine. So this movement on the Hudson River ended up moving across the entire nation onto all sorts of different bodies of water, ones you've heard of, ones you haven't heard of. I'm always learning about new rivers from my waterkeeper friends across the country, and now also it's around the world. So there's over 300 waterkeepers. There's waterkeepers in Senegal, in Iraq, even in China and Bangladesh, in various places across Europe, Asia. So we're really a global movement now, but we are very focused on our own local watersheds. And for us at Miami Waterkeeper, that is Miami-Dade and Broward counties. So we're our own independent nonprofit working towards this mission. We decide what is most important for our region and for our community and for our environment here locally. And then we use an interdisciplinary approach to tackle our focus areas in various ways, which I will share with you. This is a really great place to be doing this work, and the water and having clean water and clean beaches is very much a part of life here, particularly in Miami and Biscayne Bay, which is our backyard. There's billions of dollars of economic output from the Bay to our community every year. We actually have, we're the only county in the country that has not one, but 2 national parks located in it. Quiz for everybody participating. If you can name those national parks that are in Miami-Dade County, let us know in the chat. We also have the part of the Bay that's not a national park is the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Preserve, and Biscayne Bay is so important to our community and to the state of Florida that they actually designated it as an outstanding Florida water, which means it has higher water protections than other places. So we have over a dozen threatened and endangered species that move through the bay. We have an incredible Florida reef tract just offshore in the ocean, just bordering Miami Beach, that provides homes for thousands and thousands of creatures. It protects the shoreline from erosion, from storm surge, and of course supports wonderful tourism, ecotourism communities, and fish populations. So we are, in fact, losing our coral reef very quickly. We've lost over 80% of it since the 1970s here in Florida, and probably much more than that now with recent coral disease and a major dredging project that went on that destroyed a lot of reef. We estimate that over 500,000 corals, probably more like 1 million corals, were killed directly from that dredging project that ended in 2015. And I just heard recently in the last few months, there's been efforts to do another one. So we're working on that as well. So we do a combination of community outreach and education, and we have programs that I'll share with you as well, ranging from working with high school students to the entire community. And everything we do is very science-based. So science is the foundation of all of our policy positions and our advocacy work and our education, of course. So we work with universities, and we're still producing peer-reviewed literature as well to both contribute to the scientific understanding of this region and help managers make the right decisions of how to sustainably manage our resources. And we also stay on top of the latest science that's coming out and incorporate that into our work. And of course, we do advocacy work. We work with elected officials. We work on rulemaking. We work on administrative work. And if necessary, we will go to court to protect our environment as well. So far, we've been able to secure the restoration of over 10,000 Endangered Species Act listed corals. Those are Acropora cervicornis or staghorn corals, and also to rescue several hundred of them directly from the dredging, which NOAA estimated was worth $14 million to the public. And we fought a rule change that would have allowed millions of gallons of toxic chemicals to be put in our water. More than they wanted to increase the amount of toxic chemicals that were allowed in the waterways. We were able to successfully fight that. We've worked on styrofoam and plastic bans, and we regularly will find out about sewage leaks and report and stop pollution. One in particular was a leak that we found out about from the ocean outfall coming out of Virginia Key going offshore. And the leak was right in between Fisher Island and Virginia Key. And we found out that it had actually been known about and reported a year before and hadn't been fixed. So we got that fixed in just a few days. So we really want to encourage people to report pollution that they're seeing, because we can take action and get it stopped. So I'll talk a little bit about that too. Does anyone on the feed know what this is? And let me see. I don't know if I can't see the chat. So let me know if we have any guesses.
They're saying Lincoln Road.
That is correct. So this is Lincoln Road. So it looks pretty different today. Very interesting photos of what this area used to look like, and a visual reminder of where we came from. Anyone recognize this? Some rapid
paper bark trees. But where is that, guys? Miami Beach, Miami River Falls, City Hall.
This is the Miami River. So we actually had rapids on the Miami River, and it used to be pretty wild. Doesn't quite look like that today, but we did used to have a lot more water flow here. We had fresh water coming up in the middle of Biscayne Bay as well, before the Everglades were drained, and we lost a lot of the freshwater flow, both above ground and below ground, that came into this area. So one of the issues that Biscayne Bay faces now is just not having enough fresh water. How am I doing on time?
You're good on time, Rachel. You have 3 or 4 more minutes.
Okay, perfect. So a little bit about what we do. So we actually have a water quality monitoring program. So we go out to now 8 sites every single week, and we sample the bacteria levels at those sites. And we put that information in a way that the public can find it easily on a free app called Swim Guide. And so we add that information in, as well as the information from the Florida Department of Health Healthy Beaches program and their sampling, and an organization called Surfrider Miami that also samples. So all of that information is put into Swim Guide so that it can be easily accessible for you. So we encourage you to download that. It'll also give you information right now about which beaches are closed due to COVID and which are open. And we are going to be, right now the beaches that are closed are in special status, but we're going to be publishing the data from the bacteria levels online as well. And we also have a lot of locations inside of Biscayne Bay that we're sampling because we know people are recreating there, but the Healthy Beaches program is really focused on beach health. So we're trying to fill in some of the geographic gaps there too. We have here in Miami the top 4 out of 5 beaches viewed in the nation on the app. So if you're traveling, you can still use Swim Guide. We just do the Miami-Dade and Broward sites for the most part here in our jurisdiction, but we have really high usership of Swim Guide here because people really care about the quality of the water. So it's a really good tool. Here's some of the sites that Department of Health was sampling. Here's some of our sites. This has actually changed a little bit because we're actually working with the city of Miami under a contract now to sample more sites within the city of Miami, like Jose Marti Park. Some sites around Brickell, Kennedy Park. And that contract just started the week before the shutdown came into effect. So we got 1 week of sampling in, and then we took a pause. We were able to set up our sampling program at a satellite location because normally it's at Ransom Everglades School. They're closed, of course, so we found a way to start sampling again at another location. And so we're now, as of yesterday, back up with our weekly Monday sampling. We're happy to be able to provide that information to folks. We have another program called 1,000 Eyes on the Water. And this is a program where we train members of the public, this can be anybody of any age, to observe, document, and report things that they see on the water. So how do you know if something's okay or not okay? And I know folks in Miami Beach are really attuned to this as well, and you guys get a lot of reports from your community. We want to encourage everybody to know when to report, to know how to report, and not to feel overwhelmed like they don't know who to call. You just need to know, to call us. We can triage the problem. If it's, an oil spill, it goes to this agency. If it's a manatee in distress, it goes to this agency. We let the local municipalities know, things like that. Some of you other panelists have received calls from us about this in the past when people report things, whether it be sediment, an oil spill, a sewage leak, or recently what has happened during the shutdown is that we've actually noticed that the waters have been really quiet due to the lack of boat traffic and clear, likely because there's just been less activity going on, but also we haven't had much rain until the last week or so. And so that's meant the waters have been really beautiful and clear and quiet, and people are having some really amazing wildlife encounters. And so as part of that program, we actually launched a campaign called See a Fish, Send a Fish. So we want to encourage people not only to send pollution reports and debris they might see, but also cool things that they might find. And I don't know what this isn't playing, but I'm getting like the little spinny wheel. But this is actually a video sent to us from Scott Ziegler, who lives near Margaret Pace Park. And he saw these 2 endangered small-toothed sawfish swimming together in the bay. And 2 of them have never been filmed together in Biscayne Bay. They're extremely rare. There's like a hotline you call if you see one of these. So to see 2 together was a real special treat, and everybody was very excited. So we want to encourage people to send things that they're seeing to us, both good and bad. People are reporting manatee congregations, dolphins, turtles, even manta rays doing flips right next to a seawall. So it's been kind of a nice silver lining for us to get to see some of this normally really shy wildlife, and also to give people a way to help from home and being safe, or while they're walking along the water, to still participate in being able to keep your water clean and to document some of these cool findings. So remember to tag us in your social media, hashtag see a fish, send a fish, or send us an email, hello@miamiwaterkeeper.org with any reports that you might see. And just to emphasize how important this is too, some of the biggest sewage leaks that we've discovered have been discovered by members of the public seeing them. So not only, documenting cool and unusual wildlife, but really getting pollution cleaned up too has been really critical. I think this might have frozen.
I guess, can you maybe stop sharing the screen and then I can switch it over to my screen?
Or Betsy, you can start sharing yours without her stopping too.
Ah, okay, perfect.
Let me see if I can get back in. I can see if I can reopen it.
I guess, Rachel, can you see my screen?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, we have about 2 more minutes, a minute and a half. Tell me where you want me to, okay, there we go. I can click through, oh, there we go. Video's working.
And now I can see the comments too. And yet, the map that I showed of the sites is outdated, and as I mentioned, so we have Surfrider Miami is also sampling, and their sampling icons did not show up on that map, so I apologize about that. And it's go to Swim Guide to see the latest sites that are being sampled. So be sure to check out there. So there's the sawfish. And then this is another program we have, the Junior Ambassador Program. That's for a high school leadership training program that trains high school students to be environmental leaders, public speaking, meeting with elected officials, civics training, issues training. And then this is part of the field part of the program where they do volunteer events. They're learning how to do water sampling here, testing for things like salinity and pH using special kits from a group called Earth Echo International, and funding that we got from the NAMAD Foundation to do boat trips with the students as well. So that's been a great program. If anybody knows any high school students interested in learning more and getting more involved, let us know. Next slide. So I was going to go into nutrient pollution. I'm not sure if I have time, but I can sort of skip through that. And I think Matt will probably talk about the impact of nutrient pollution and fertilizers on algae blooms in the bay. Matt, I think you can get into that, or Melissa as well can talk about the fertilizer ordinance. But I did want to show this. So this is showing between 2011 and 2016 how much seagrass we've actually lost from Biscayne Bay. So we're in the midst of a massive seagrass die-off that is likely related to nutrient pollution that's going on. This is, of course, north of the Julia Tuttle. So really trying to get to the bottom of the cause and then a way to fix the seagrass situation. I know many of the panelists are also working on this as well, but this is, a very visual example of some of the declines we've seen in the bay that we're working towards remediating. And then if you click the next slide. This is one of my favorite set of pictures, and it just gives a really visual example of sort of what we've lost, or what we call shifting baselines in ecology. And I'm seeing a question, why is seagrass important? Thank you so much for asking that. I should have explained that. Seagrass is critically important. We used to have acres and acres and acres and meadows of lush seagrass in the bay. It stabilizes the soil to keep the water nice and clear. It also provides an amazing habitat for creatures and critters, and particularly baby fish will live in the seagrass, and as well as the mangroves, to be protected from predators until they get bigger and maybe stay in the bay, maybe go offshore and visit the reef area. Just making sure I'm not missing any other questions. So yeah, so we've been losing a lot of seagrass, but it's also a great carbon sink. So it traps a lot of carbon in the sediment, and it serves a lot of ecological function and purpose for keeping the ecosystem healthy. So the photos that you're seeing here span from 1958. This is into the 1970s. This is the same charter boat fishing company from the Florida Keys putting up their largest catch of the day. So you can see how much things are changing, not only the size of the fish, but also the species and the number. And then this is 2007. So you might come down to the Keys and visit and go fishing and think you had an amazing day out on the water because you caught all these fish. But in fact, you know, this is giving us a really interesting reminder of what was lost. And this is a study that a really amazing scientist who does something called historical ecology, which is a very cool field. She recreates unusual data sets of ecological record. And so she went down to the Monroe County Library and actually measured and counted each of the fish that showed up in all of these pictures and published a scientific study in 2009 about her findings and what she found there. So it's one of my favorite ways to sort of think about what's lost and where we're trying to restore everything back to. And I think that was all I had. I could go on and on, but we have a lot of interesting panelists to hear from. So I'll turn it back over to you guys and let me know if you have any more questions.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It's happy that you're able to join us and love the work that you and your organization do to protect Biscayne Bay as well as our Atlantic ocean resources. So I'm going to give an overview of Miami Beach pollution prevention programs. I'm Elizabeth Wheaton. I'm the Environment and Sustainability Director with the city. So it begins with you. So we focus on education and outreach. When we're thinking about how to prevent pollution from entering the Bay, it really starts with each and every one of us. We have a number of programs, including hazardous waste collection that we do twice a year. We have our plastic-free business certification program. Does anyone who's on today go to any businesses that are part of the plastic-free MB program? If so, let us know what some of your favorites are. We also we also concentrate on operations and maintenance. And, you know, pollution prevention starts at the source with the individual, but oftentimes plastic bottles and other debris and litter do enter the stormwater system. And so here's a picture to your right of one of our public works operations crews pumping out the stormwater system. This is a trash grate that collects all of that floatable litter. We also have a street sweeping program. Every year, we collect over 3.2 million pounds of trash from the system itself. So that's an example of why it's so important that we prevent that material from ever entering the system. But we do have checks and balances to remove it from the system to help keep it from entering the Bay. Hold on, I need to close. I can't see the full screen. Give me 2 seconds. All right. Okay, so which Rachel talked about, and we've worked with her organization as well as other local nonprofits on developing policies. We want to look to change habits. So it's everything from banning polystyrene, banning plastic straws, looking to improve recycling, as well as looking at our procurement policies as an organization and how we can change those policies. We also do a lot of education and incentives. So we're going to be launching a water quality campaign later this year, so keep an eye out. And then, of course, monitoring and measuring, making sure that we understand how the city of Miami Beach is impacting our water quality. So I think stormwater became a household name in South Florida when people began to see plumes coming out from our outfalls as we were moving forward with neighborhood construction projects. These plumes here are a potential indicator of pollutants. The picture on the left is sediment coming from a construction site. So what happens is construction sites have this extra sediment and debris, and then once that enters the system, it creates these plumes into the bay. We also have groundwater infiltrating into the system, which can contribute to that darker water. So that's something, you know, that we as a city are trying to prevent. And as we move forward with our stormwater management program, we are constantly reevaluating the designs and how we can help prevent both groundwater and sediment from ever entering Biscayne Bay. A big piece of that is training and enforcement. So we train internal staff as well as contractors, and we have an enforcement team which helps us go out to construction sites and prevent that pollution from ever entering the system. If you're a resident of Miami Beach and you see a construction site like the one to the right, please call us and let us know. We definitely depend on our residents and helping us get tipped off when we need to address certain areas. All right. We also are looking at how we design projects. This is an example of a former golf course called the Par 3, located at around 28th Street in Miami Beach. And we're actually developing the design to help remove stormwater from the surrounding neighborhood. The design right now has a retention lake, which will treat that stormwater and slow the movement of water down, so it doesn't go to the bay, but rather is treated within the terrestrial site of Miami Beach. We also have a debris removal program. We remove about 100,000 pounds of litter just from our waterway contractor. So if you see debris within the waterways, shopping carts to floatable litter, please let us know and we can direct our waterway contractor to address those areas. Typically, the waterway contractor is servicing the city 3 times per week. However, right now, unfortunately, we have a reduced schedule. So just please, we're relying on residents to help us let us know where we need to be directing them with this reduced schedule. So this slide is for our favorite Margarita Wells. The manatee is her favorite animal, so we added this slide for her. So one of the programs that Margarita spearheaded was our water quality monitoring program. In 2016, we voluntarily launched a monitoring program that augments what Miami-Dade County does. So we're using this program to help direct policy. And we will have a report that will be released in June, so please stay tuned to our website. As Rachel mentioned, the Department of Health ensures our beaches are swimmable. We've actually added a station over at the Purdy Avenue boat launch because we're gonna be opening a kayak launch there in the next couple of months. So we have, the Department of Health is also sampling at that location now. Miami-Dade County is also responsible for monitoring the bay. So we work closely with Miami-Dade County as it relates to impacts to water quality, and that would be nutrients. So, you know, as you're thinking about making your lawn pretty, those pesticides and fertilizers, they contribute to degrading the bay. So one of the next steps that the city's looking at is how we can adjust our regulations to prevent the nutrient pollution from entering the bay system. Thank you, everyone. And now I'm going to turn it over to Matt. Just a reminder for the group, we will do Q&A once we've heard from Coral Gables and the city of Miami, as well as Maui. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and the entire Miami Beach team for putting on this event and inviting, you know, all of our cities to be able to participate and highlight some of the work we're doing. I'm going to talk really quickly about what we have going on in the city of Coral Gables. Most people don't know that in the city of Coral Gables, we have over 42 miles of coastline and waterway throughout our city. And we've placed water quality as one of the top priorities in the city when it comes to, you know, protecting the environment and our sustainability initiatives. So the city we really started our journey on really prohibiting styrofoam and single-use plastic bags. As I've mentioned before, we were the first city in the state of Florida to ban single-use plastic bags that extended to the businesses and even took that legal battle all the way to the state Supreme Court and continue educating our businesses on that and really using our local resources. And I know Rachel from Miami Waterkeeper spoke, and they're an amazing organization. And we have, and I really want to talk about how much expertise we have in our local region for municipalities to be able to tap into and utilize. And that's something that we're taking full advantage of in the city of Coral Gables in educating our residents, our businesses. We even require landscapers in the city to register with the city so we can share educational materials with them. So we've been working on that and doing a big education campaign around fertilizer use and pesticide use and educating our residents on what proper applications there are in that. In addition, the city has ceased using fertilizers with nitrogen and phosphorus during the summer months. We basically have a blackout period on our city properties where we don't apply any fertilizers that have nitrogen and phosphorus, which is not really needed during the summer. So we want to lead by example. And again, continue educating our residents and businesses is what we're currently doing in our landscaping companies. Something else we started doing as well in partnership with Florida International University is we actually have 6 stations that are taking in data from our Coral Gables waterway on looking at temperature, depth, salinity, dissolved solids, all of this type of data we're pulling in, and we make that data available to the public as a live feed from our website, really educating our residents and our visitors on what we're doing and what impacts there are on the potential Coral Gables waterway. And something else that we're excited that we're getting ready to kick off now is a partnership with FIU, with with Waterkeeper, on doing a really comprehensive water quality study of our Coral Gables waterway and really identifying our nutrient loads, being able to assist in our basic watershed nutrient management, help identify where our land-based sources are coming from, so we can then manage them, to the best of our ability from our land-based sources. And something else I really wanted to mention too is really engaging our public on this. We participate in the county's Bonanza event and go to Matheson Hammock and clean up any pollution that we find there. And also, similar to what Elizabeth mentioned that Miami Beach has, we have household hazardous waste collection events that we hold twice a year that are incredibly popular. We've collected over 200,000 pounds of household hazardous waste that otherwise may have ended up in a landfill or potentially in our waterway. The brochure that you see popping up on the screen, you can get that we did in partnership with Miami Waterkeeper and our website, coralgables.com/waterways, where we have a lot of other information too on preventing nutrient pollution. And the last thing I wanted to mention too is something that we've been working on and launched last year as a green business program, and really working with our business community, which is such an integral part of our community, and promoting sustainable practices, including preventing pollution and improving water quality. And that's something else that we've launched that really promotes going plastic free and all sorts of things tied into protecting our waterways, which is such an incredible resource for us. So I'll leave it there, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end.
Awesome, thank you, Matt. Next, we have Melissa with the City of Miami. Melissa, would you like to share your screen, or would you like me to go through the presentation for you?
Oh, I was on mute. If you could go through it for me, because I'm on my phone and I'm having technical difficulties, so we'll see if this works.
No worries.
Okay, all right, we're up. So in December, the City of Miami and Ocean Conservancy launched a partnership called Shores Forward. And this partnership really was, you can go to the next slide, Betsy. And this partnership was really to protect Miami's oceans and coasts. And a lot of people don't know this, but Miami actually has 88 miles of waterfront. So that includes bayside as well as riverside, but a lot of that is bay. So our economy, our way of life, a lot of our industry is driven by bay-related activities. And so this is why this partnership was so important for us. There are 5 main buckets that we divided our initiatives into, and this comes out of Ocean Conservancy's Currents and Crossroads document that they put out, and we really took that to heart and delved into each one of them. So I'll be going into these in the next couple slides. Next one. Okay, so the first one is education and outreach, and like all of the panelists have said, this is so important. When I think of education and outreach, I think of two quotes kind of come to mind for me. It's, if you know better, you do better, right? And once you know better, teach someone else. So each one teach one about the importance of the bay, why we need to protect it, and just its intrinsic beauty. So I'm just gonna breeze through some of the initiatives that we have going on. Some of the new ones I want to highlight is the Green Schools Challenge with that's with Dream and Green, a really great local organization that we've partnered with to do a kind of mayor's challenge. So we asked schools within the in the city of Miami to come up with a video on why water quality is so important, and any ideas that they had that could protect water quality in and around the Miami area. The next thing that we did was launch a campaign for Florida-friendly fertilizer usage. And I'll go into that in more detail when I talk about water quality, because we also passed an ordinance recently that restricts the use of fertilizer in the city. And then the other thing that we did, which is also in partnership with Dream and Green, as well as our solid waste department, is storm drain markers. So we're going to 5 different schools within the city and getting students out there to stencil storm drains that hopefully will bring awareness to the connection between storm drain and outflow to the bay. And then some of the other things that we have going on is Keep Miami Beautiful, which is ongoing trash pickup in and around the area on a volunteer basis and otherwise. And then we have partnerships with the Miami River Commission, just trying to get people to understand the importance of the river, but also its connection to the bay and how it can be a conduit for pollutants to get to the bay. And then also we have a partnership with the Frost Science Museum, doing a lot of restoration activity there. And our next one is ocean trash. So this bucket is one of the ones that are very visual. You can see the trash going into the bay. You can see the direct impacts with all the plastics. And so we thought this one was very important, and it goes hand in hand with education and outreach. So a couple of the new initiatives that we are doing is a citywide plastics pollution survey. We're really excited about this one because it's going to help us determine where our plastic inputs are and really do a land-based intervention approach that can help to prevent the pollutants, the plastics, from going into the bay and into our waterways in the first place. And so out of this survey, which is going to be very hands-on on the ground, out of this survey, we hope to get policy recommendations to limit plastics from going into the, like I said, into the waterways in the first place, and really using a land-based approach. The next thing that we are going to be doing is a sustainable events summit. And we had hoped to have this, the planning of this come by summer, but with everything going on with COVID, this is going to be postponed. But the purpose of this summit was to try and bring industry professionals together to figure out ways to make our events more sustainable. And so Miami is, whether it be Miami Beach or City of Miami or Coral Gables, we're always hosting events, and this is a year-round thing for us. So how do we make these events more sustainable? Everything from single-use plastics to carbon offsetting. How do we do that? And what are the best management practices that we can implement at these events? And then the other thing that we did, this happened around Super Bowl, was we had a goal of collecting 54 tons for Super Bowl 54. And between March and I would say up until when Super Bowl was happening, we collected, I believe, over the 54. And then some of the other things, these are a lot of them, but the Scavenger 2000, a lot of people don't know this. So the picture, the small circle is of a little vessel, and that's a Scavenger 2000. That vessel goes up and down the Miami River, and it can collect over 5,000 cubic feet of floating marine debris per year. And you wouldn't really even notice it if you were just kind of on the river, but look out for it. It's out there and it's collecting debris, and it also aerates the water as well. So it really helps with water quality. And then the other one I just want to touch really quickly on here is that we had a polystyrene ordinance which bans polystyrenes in all of our parks. Next slide. So this one is water quality, and clean water is really essential to the health of the bay. It affects everything from seagrass to large charismatic animals like dolphins and manatees. And so this one, well, like all of them, are extremely important. So some of the new things that we've been doing is in partnership with SOP Technologies. I think Emilio might be joining us in the webinar, but I'm not sure if he's here. But SOP Technologies, we did a pilot with them to install 20 curb inlet grates, which essentially protects the storm drain system from debris. And that is plastic debris, that's leaf litter, anything that's large that can get from the storm drain to the bay. That grate would protect it from getting into the system. And so the other one that I had mentioned earlier is the fertilizer ordinance. So we passed this unanimously, very surprisingly, but unanimously in April. And so this ordinance restricts the application and use of fertilizers on city-owned property by commercial users, but also, which is very important, by residential applicators as well. And so this ordinance was kind of done in partnership with Miami Waterkeeper. They helped us a lot with this. And it talks about, and I can provide a link to what the ordinance actually requires, but essentially there's a rainy season ban from June through September, no phosphorus, and then nitrogen within restricted amounts. And like I said, this applies to both commercial as well as residential applicators of fertilizer. We also increased our water quality testing, and Rachel with Waterkeeper mentioned this earlier. We increased to about 6 additional sites, I believe, and what we were testing for was fecal indicator bacteria. And then the last thing in our new initiatives is the Stormwater Master Plan. So the Stormwater Master Plan really looks at how are we capturing our stormwater, what are we doing with it, and how are we managing it. Quality is something that kind of comes after the fact traditionally when you look at a stormwater system, but we really want to put water quantity as well as water quality up front, and look at the ways in which we're capturing water, not only to slow velocity, but also treating it before it exits and goes to the bay. And then some ongoing initiatives that we have right now as far as water quality goes is we were a sponsor in the Biscayne Bay Marine Health Summit, and we're looking forward to implementing a lot of the action items and initiatives that comes out of that report that came from the Biscayne Bay Marine Health Summit. And then we also have a glyphosate ban on city properties.
All right, Melissa, I apologize. We're going to have to continue on now to Maui.
Sure.
So that we can keep on time and I know that there's a lot of questions, so I want to make sure that we have a chance to get through those at the end.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. So next, I'm going to hand it over to James. I will stop sharing my screen so you can start. All right, James. We're ready for you.
Blowing up the process. Okay, I'm sharing my screen right now.
And guys, just want to highlight that, both James and Makalea joined us at 5:30 this morning to be here with us today. It's not even 7 o'clock right there. So we really appreciate all the effort, guys. You guys are awesome.
Oh, thanks. So, no, it's actually really good. Miami has some really exciting things going on with the water quality. No, it's refreshing to hear. Yeah, so my name is James, James Strickland. I'm with Huioka Viola. And so I'm in front of the camera, but behind the camera in the chat screen, we have, Makalaya, and she's the environmental coordinator for the Mayor's Office of Economic Development for Maui. So if you guys have any questions, she can probably answer them. If not, then maybe I can try to answer them. So first, I'm just going to talk about our program. So yeah, we're here on Maui. And Huioka Viola, it actually translates into Association of the Living Waters. And what's really cool about our program, so we're a water testing group, and we test, if you just look at the map there, we test if on the west side, so if you look on the left and up around Napili, so we're testing water there, and then we go all the way down south to the Ahihi Reserve, Natural Reserve area. And we're, what makes our program really great is that it's actually volunteers. We're volunteer based. So it's members from the community coming up and saying, hey, what's going on with our oceans? You know, we care about our oceans. And so so they go through rigorous training, and it's actually citizen science. So it's members of our community that are coming together. So we have about 35 volunteers right now, and we're on a schedule. We're on a 3-week schedule where every 3 weeks we're on, before when I talked about Napili on the left side of the map, the west side. So we test about 20 sites on the west side 1 week, and then we go down to the south side, and where you can see Kihei, or starting in Kihei and then going down to McKenna and then Ahihi. And we have about 20 sites there that we test. So we're on a 3-week testing schedule. We test on the west side a week and then a south side a week, and then we have a week to where we analyze our data and do any sort of lab maintenance or equipment maintenance. But also one thing that's really cool about our program is we call it quality assured data. So we have a partnership with the Department of Health, where they've actually signed off on all of our operating procedures, which means that they actually use all of our data in their reports. And then also the EPA uses our data as well. So now, just going over some of the things we test for, we have, so if you look at the picture of the truck, so we have mobile labs that will go out, and we have equipment that will go, so we can do temperature, dissolved oxygen, salinity, pH, and turbidity. We can do all of that on site. And then nutrients, I know Elizabeth talked about nutrients, which could be from fertilizer, agriculture runoff, it could be sewage. So that we actually have to send off to Oahu, University of Hawaii there to analyze that. But so our program, we've been test sampling for about 3 years now. And before we started, we didn't have a good baseline of what the nutrient levels were at each beach. Or, oh, maybe I didn't say that, but so our methods of testing, we go out to beaches, and we go out about knee to thigh deep, and that's where we actually grab the sample. So we go out about knee to thigh deep, and then we have our sampling bottles, and we go about a foot underneath the water and then grab the sample. And that's actually the same exact method that the Department of Health, at least in Hawaii, that's the same method that they use whenever they're grabbing samples. So just to go over some of our data. So if anyone wants to go down a data rabbit hole, let's see if this, I'll just show you some of our, well, let's go to the internet. And so if you go to our website, huiokaviola.com, and if you go over here to data, well, then it actually shows, it lists all the sites that we test at. So here, this is the west side of Maui and then the south side. And you can look up any site. But then also, you can look at the parameters. Now remember, we have 3 years worth of data. So we have some really nice maps just analyzing our data by sites. If you guys want to look at that. Yeah, and then if you have any questions, you can just email me at james@mauireefs.org. So that's just my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, James. Appreciate your presentation. Now we're going to open it up to Q&A. I will share, hold on. Flavia, I don't know if you have the right screen for the Q&A. I'll get it started though. The first question is going to be for Rachel. A lot of questions came in regarding threats and what individuals can do to prevent water quality issues in Biscayne Bay. Can you speak a little bit more about what the greatest threat of pollutants are to Biscayne Bay and what individuals can do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and I didn't quite get to it to my presentation, but some other folks covered it really nicely as well. But we're really dealing with Biscayne Bay being at a tipping point for nutrient pollution right now. And again, nutrients can come from sewage spills, septic tanks, pet waste, and fertilizer. But most of it is coming from the land and pollution running off from the land down the drains and ending up in our waterways. And that's causing potentially the seagrass die-off, we think, but also algae blooms. And you probably are more familiar with the algae blooms further north in Florida that they get, like when they have big discharges from Lake Okeechobee, when they get a lot of rainfall causing last year or the year before, I think it was the year before actually, declarations of emergency because people can't touch the water for the whole summer, things like that. Thankfully in Biscayne Bay it hasn't gotten that bad, but we really are concerned that we are starting to see algae blooms happening in Biscayne Bay. The water turns green, it kills fish, it smothers seagrass, it's harmful to humans as well. So that can cause a lot of degradation of the water and the ecosystem around. So getting all of those nutrient pollution sources cleaned up is a high priority.
Great, thank you. Kind of building off of that, this question for James. What is the main water quality challenge that you have out in Maui, and how are you dealing with it?
So we have so on the west side, our main thing is turbidity, and high turbidity. So turbidity is it's a measurement of how clear the water is. In the air, it'd be something like how smoky it is. So in the water, the higher the turbidity, that means that there's going to be more gunk, more sediment floating around. So that's going to be harder for the sunlight to get through. So say like things like the coral reef that actually rely on sunlight, or the algae do to make food for the coral. So that's a big problem. And that comes from just runoff. We also have high turbidity if there's really high surf swells. And then on the south side, our biggest issue is high nutrient levels. And then that's also, you have too many nutrients, and you have turtles that they get these weird tumors because they're eating seaweed that have really high nutrients, and it messes them up. And then it also messes up the coral. It's just the system's imbalanced, and you just have a lot of just negative effects on that. So what was
a lot of similar issues?
Yeah.
Well, thank you both, Rachel and James. We are going to have to move on to the Kahoot. I'm sorry that we did not have time for more Q&A. We have a lot of good questions coming through, and we're happy to reach out to you offline if you have additional questions. You can learn more on the City of Miami Beach's website, mbrisingabove.com. Again, that's mbrisingabove.com. Also, I saw a few questions come in regarding how you volunteer. I'd encourage you to check out the Waterkeepers website. We also have other organizations such as Surfrider that do amazing work here in South Florida, and volunteercleanup.org is another entity which you can learn about cleanups happening throughout Biscayne Bay. So now I'm going to turn it over to Yanni Pineda to kick off the Kahoot.
And Betsy, before we start the Kahoots too, I just wanted to let folks know some of the questions, our panelists have been answering in the Q&A. Thanks for the panelists that have been answering them. And if the other panelists too, guys, if you guys can check in the Q&A, and as we go over Kahoots, try to answer some of this. And then after Kahoot, guys, if the panelists have time and we are able to stay a little bit longer, we'll ask another few questions before we wrap it up, so we cover more questions there. Thank you.
Awesome.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks Flavia, thanks Betsy. Okay, so we'll get started. So for those of you who don't know, we're gonna play Kahoot, and what you need for this game is your cell phone. So make sure that you have it handy, and you're gonna go to kahoot.it. I'll show it up on the screen now. And once you go to that site, you'll be given a code. Let's get started. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the site up here, kahoot.it, and then you're going to put in this code once it asks you for it, and then you'll put in your nickname. So we'll give everyone a few minutes to sign up before you get started. And for those of you playing for the first time, points are based on not just the correct question, but also how fast you answer. So towards the end, we're going to pick out the top 3 players will reach out to me, and we'll work on getting you your prizes. Which animal is not found in Biscayne Bay? Yep, that's correct. We do not have bears in our waters. Good job. All right, next one. And we have volunteer cleanup at the top and manatee. How many national parks are in Miami-Dade? Next question. Swope went to the top, and Les is number 3, and we have volunteer cleanup. Good job. All right, next question. How many pounds of trash are kept out of Miami Beach's waterways every year? Of trash that we remove. Les is at the top. Awesome. Let's move on. Oop. What do we do on land? What we do on land affects the quality of the water in our who's at the top. Les is still at the top. Good job. So this is definitely not a multi-answer. Next. These are our top 3 people. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put in my email for everyone that won. Just make sure you reach out to me with your information, and then we'll work together on getting you your prizes.
Awesome. Thank you, Yanni, for leading the fun Kahoot. I want to thank all of the participants today for being a part of our panel. Thank you for those of you who woke up at extremely early hours to make it here. And thank you for all the participants in today's workshop. We love seeing you engage and be a part of these discussions. And we encourage you to join us this upcoming Thursday at 6 p.m. We're going to be talking water conservation. So come learn more, and thank you again for being a part of this.
All right, thank you so much, guys. And we have still a lot of questions, so we can definitely try to send those questions to the panelists. Sorry, we ran out of time today. But yeah, there is still a lot of questions, so we'll make sure to be sending that to them. And again, as Betsy said, please join us in the upcoming Sustainachella on Thursday, 6 p.m. Water conservation. We'll have several cities joining us. Will be pretty cool. And look forward to seeing you guys. And also, sorry, Betsy, go ahead. You're on mute.
I was going to say, we could, if anyone does want to stay around, we can stay around for a few more minutes to answer questions. But I know a number of people do have to get off who are on the panel. So at minimum, myself and Flavia will stick around. And if the other panelists, if you have a few more minutes, we'll go through some questions. Are you guys good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So Betsy, I know that we have a lot of questions in the Q&A, and you also have another.
Sorry, Flav, I have to jump off. But any questions, email me, and I'll try to respond via email.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa.
Bye.
All right. One of the questions we had for you, Rachel, was how do you become a water keeper?
Hi, there are lots of ways to get involved in the organization. We have members, so you can check out our website and the membership program. One of the best ways to stay updated, and we update frequently, is our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Miami Waterkeeper. Our website, we're about to launch a new website, so some of the information on there is a little bit outdated, but the blog section on our website under latest news has the latest media and blog information to stay up to date. And we also have an events page on our website. Of course, in-person events right now are suspended, but hopefully not forever. So, so check that out for more ways to get engaged, to do things like the 1,000 Eyes on the Water program, to join cleanup events. Also definitely check out volunteercleanup.org for other cleanup events. I see a lot of questions about how to volunteer, so that's a really great resource for folks as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Now I'm going to throw the question over to Matt. I know that you have a number of partnerships in Coral Gables, and I've seen a number of questions come through of how residents living in the Gables can get involved. And do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, similar to you guys, we have a sustainability advisory board. Actually, our chair, Irela, was on this call as well. So please come and attend our meetings when they start up again, when we get through this whole COVID thing. Also too, I think a great resource that I don't think we've mentioned yet for the participants is there's a Biscayne Bay task force that actually Irela, who I mentioned before, is the chair of. And I think a lot of our cities have presented it to, and they're looking at Biscayne Bay from the county's perspective and giving recommendations to the county commission. So I think that's another great resource that I think all of us have contributed to that that I think people can definitely get involved in as well at a county level and giving recommendations to the county commission.
Thank you, Matt.
On that note too, Betsy, if I can, you know, the county's made these efforts and established this task force and made Biscayne Bay health a priority. And I think it's incumbent on the community to also make sure that the recommendations that come out of the task force, who have been very careful and thoughtful about speaking to members of the community and gathering all the information, are actually implemented. So I think that's on all of us as community members too. And as we see big projects coming forward, like dredging projects coming up where seagrass, direct destruction of seagrass and corals is proposed, we need to make sure that the priority stays as the county has established the task force. So we need to keep that high up in the conversation, and everybody needs to get involved in doing that.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Matt. And thank you, Irela, for participating. We're really appreciative to the work that you're doing with the Biscayne Bay Task Force. All right, so I am going to call it a day finally. So thank you everyone who took the time to be here, and we look forward to seeing you later this week or later this month. And we like to end every session giving you all love and gratitude. We have so much to be thankful for, not only here in Miami, and Miami Beach, but also around the world. Thank you to our partners and friends in Hawaii. And we are sending all of you love and gratitude, and hope that this has brought a little light into your day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good one. Join us on Thursday.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.